Hi, Genki Call here. It is the week of June 26, 2023. We are in Whitehelm this week. I've got all of your information on what you can get with your event keys and events for the week, all kinds of stuff for you. And also, I am going to give you the world event scoring because I need to get some sleep. Sorry, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to have to get some rest. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the world event scoring right now. It's rarity order, super easy. They're scaling, so each subsequent fight will give you more points. And yeah, it's just rarity order, and you have an supposedly equal chance of getting each battle every turn. So anyway, easy scoring this week for once, which is really nice. So, all right, so let's get to campaign tasks. That is not it. Although, I should show you, we do have deeds on the board today, so that's super nice. Yes, purple deeds, no less. So, earn glory from any battle, kill enemies in any battle, and kill yellow enemies in any battle. You know, nowadays there's really no reason to go over the campaign tasks anymore, but I will point out no PvP this week, because I know some people just don't like it. Anyway, no, we're going to go to the shop first. So, resources, grab your spoils of war, get all 10 of these if you can. It's a great deal for event keys, so let me grab those. And then we'll head into the weekly event and get the new troop Dominion. Oh, Dominion! I recommend getting this up to mythic level every week if you can, because it's a guaranteed level 20 troop for the kingdom when you need it for your power level. As far as what you can get with your event keys this week, there are some very nice things in here. Unfortunately, and I'm going to point this out, fully upgrade 12 Whitehelm weapons. There aren't 12 free weapons. To have the 12, you have to purchase it with real money. And I got that offer today. This should be from Whitehelm. No, it's from Glacial Peaks. Huh. Nope. So for me, there's no way to get this up any higher. I'm so sad. Anyway, I will stop digressing and get into it, what you can get with your event keys this week. We've got, we've got two very nice and one an okay mythic here. Guard's Avatar, fantastic. Damage to all enemies boosted by my armor with a 2-to-1 ratio. So you take the armor, you divide it by 2, and add that on. And it's damage to each enemy. It's not scatter damage. So, you know, you've also got the burn undead and silence demon enemies as well. The traits aren't great, but, you know, you buff this guy's armor, especially if you can use the Shield of Urskaya, and he's just really powerful. He's, like, not as powerful as Rowan, but, you know, he's very, very good. You know, he's got these, you know, extra things here, though. Anyway, you can use Guard's Avatar in events. He is fantastic in events, and in any delve where you can't use Rowan also. So Lebara's okay. Damage to all enemies or add life to all allies. The problem is, if you could choose which one it was, this would be fantastic. But since you don't get to choose, you don't know what you're going to get, I really dislike that mechanic, so I won't use it. Because maybe I need life, maybe I don't. I pretty much want one or the other and be able to choose. So I won't use this one myself, generally speaking. He is very powerful in delves because this number goes up so much. But again, you don't know if you're going to get life or damage, so you have to weigh your options with him. He also gives 4 life to all yellow allies when matching yellow gems and has spell reduction by 50%. The Archdiva. This guy can only be cast once. Choose an ally, give them attack, life, and armor, and fill their mana. Can be cast only once. It doesn't sound that great because it can only be cast once, but it's a lot to give them all of this plus all of their mana. Also, you can barrier and bless a random ally with matching 4+ gems. If it was just barrier or just bless, maybe not as great, but I mean, barrier and bless is very, very nice. Okay, Celestasia. You know, I've never used this troop. Create 9 gems of a chosen ally's mana color. Whether you are webbed or not, this does not change. You will create this if you cast. Cleanse and give life to them. This purple number is the only thing that is affected by webbing. So cleanse and give life to them. You know, it's okay. There are much better troops out there nowadays. This thing really needs a buff, I think. And Celestasia herself will gain a barrier on 4+ gem matches. Next is Holy Saint Astra, which is fantastic. People like to pair her with Tesla because Tesla is a human. Give life and armor to all allies, create a light storm, and enchant all humans. You know, I have a different way, a preferred way of using Tesla, but you know that enchant is very nice, and plus all human allies start with 50% mana, so if you're using a human team, it's very nice. Next up is Moloch. Drain all mana from one enemy, deal true damage boosted by the mana drain, so if you drain 6 mana, you'll get an additional 6 damage. Enemies lose 1 skill point on 4+ gem matches. That could be any of these numbers here, or it could be their magic. Also gain bonus red mana from red gem matches. The fire link is very nice, of course. We do like those links. Will not be able to get the Silent Sentinel or Gargoyle. They are both from Hall of Guardians. Love the Gargoyle, but you can't get it unless you go to the Underworld and use your Chaos Shards. So next up is Ascendance. Give life to all allies. That's it. But that's okay. It's not a legendary, it's an epic, and it's a troop. As for Dominion, the new troop, let me get him leveled up here. So slow. I really love the design of this troop, but I'm confused as to why they put a 6-pack on his armor. It just looks a little silly to me. Ah, so funny! Anyway, so let's go over what he does. He does damage to one enemy. If they're a demon, deal triple damage and then cleanse himself. So demons like to do death mark. Demons will do all kinds of negative status effects, so the cleanse is very nice. Skull damage reduction by 40%. Light storm at the start of battle. And yeah, that's nothing else really noticeable. Grand Inquisitor. Damage to an enemy boosted by the number of Whitehelm allies and gain a barrier. So you'll gain an additional 5 damage for each Whitehelm ally, and that includes himself. So right off the bat, you're getting an extra 5 here. But he also gains a barrier, double skull damage versus demons, or daemons if you prefer, and yeah, the rest of this not really noticeable or mentionable. Damage to an enemy, this is gravitas, whatever. Damage to an enemy if the enemy is undead or a demon, drain all of their mana and curse them with skull damage reduction by 40%. Next up, can't get this, Hall of Guardians. Lady Saphira, you will have her just from doing the storyline here. She does true damage to an enemy, gains 4 life and 2 attack straight up, no matter what, as long as she casts. She inflicts frozen when doing skull damage, although she has no skull damage reduction or dodge, so I don't know why you would put her at the front of the team, but, and she's undying, that's nice. Mercy, absolutely. If you like the empowered mana converter, she starts battles with Fur Mama. Anyway, full mana. Give life to the weakest ally and transform purple gems to yellow to boost the effect. Cleanse all allies. This is really powerful in Guild Wars because you really need those status effects to be taking effect on your team. So this is really good for Guild Wars defense especially. So recommended if you need her to use some event keys and try to get her if you don't already have her, if you are interested in having her for Guild Wars or you just want that empower. Patience is next. She is our God Slayer, so she's going to do that 3 to 5 times damage to bosses. That's anything with a red border. Everything with a red border, including in the dungeon and Diamantina. the Gem Dragons, Enraged Kurandara, all of those. So damage to an enemy boosted by purple enemies, +4 for each purple enemy if they're a boss, blah blah blah, you know, the usual thing with the Godslayers and Siege Breakers. Next up, we have Quatramanus. This guy does light splash damage, and if you don't know what that is, you can read about it right over here. To an enemy and a random enemy. If the enemy is a construct, explode 8 gems. Skull damage reduction by 50%, spell damage reduction by 25%. Next up is Sir Alamir. Create Blooper again, wow. Create 8 red and 8 yellow gems, period. Then deal damage to the first enemy and burn them. Skull damage reduction by 40%. Double skull damage versus undead could be useful in Gulvania. And any event that has undead. Statue of Saint Verata. This one is our Siege Breaker, which I just mentioned. This is the 3 to 5 times damage to towers. That would be the invasion event. Damage to an enemy and give all allies barrier if I am damaged. Skull damage reduction by 50%. And of course the Siege Breaker trait there. Topaz Giant. This guy does damage to an enemy, then converts 5 purple gems to yellow giant gems. As you know, the giant gems, when you match them or destroy them or explode them, they will give you 5 mana, just straight up an additional 5 mana, and they'll explode. So you get mana off of those giant gems. I really like those. Summons a light storm at the start of battle, feeds right back into himself, skull damage reduction by 50%, and create a yellow giant gem when I take skull damage. This guy is meant to be run at the front of the team with these traits. It just, sometimes the traits will synergize and sometimes they don't. This is one example of them actually synergizing. Uriel the Guardian does a cleanse and gives life to 1 ally, creates 1 to 3 yellow mana potions. If any enemy is death marked, there's a 50% chance to gain an extra turn. The mana potions, when you match them, they kind of explode? They don't explode, they multiply. The yellow, they just deposit that color gem all over the board. I can't remember how many they will do. It's a range, and I can't remember, but just to review, the mana potions will put a bunch of that color on the board. Skull damage reduction, spell damage reduction, and inflict death mark when doing skull damage. So this is another example of the traits synergizing. Angry Mob. You need this troop. He's pretty low rarity, but Angry Mob is one of the best mana generators in the game, along with Thrall and Leprechaun, and my favorite, Marilith. In my opinion, these ones are just amazing. It has 13 mana cost. Destroy random gems, period. It's going to destroy them as if they were matched. It destroys a lot of the board, you know, once you have a higher magic. And he also either summons an angry mob or does damage to the first enemy. Doesn't matter. I use him for the destroy. If he summons, that's great. If he does damage, that's great. So this is one example where I don't mind having more than one effect. An either or, rather. Can become enraged when an enemy dies, which is fantastic. If you're losing troops and you summon one in, it gets enraged. It does all of that extra, you can see all of that extra damage with skulls. So anyway, next up, you cannot get this. That's from the Hall of Guardians. The Bishop gives an ally armor and 1 magic, double the effect if the ally is divine. So he's really only going to be useful if you use it on a divine troop. That includes himself, of course, but anyway, all allies gain 2 random skill points. Other than that, nothing really notable. High Paladin is very good. I love the High Paladin and the Paladin. We'll go over that in a second. High Paladin does damage to the 2 strongest enemies boosted by my armor. So you take the armor, you divide by 2 and add that on, and you know, the higher your armor, of course, and you can boost that very easily. The higher your armor, the higher attack he's going to do. So this is something that's lower rarity, that's very good for events. If you don't have the higher rarity cards that do more damage, but he also has skull damage reduction by 40%. I don't recommend putting him at the front of the team because you don't want his armor to be damaged, but there is that. Mecha Mare. This one converts all red gems to green and all yellow gems to brown. I think that this thing has potential, but I have never taken the time to explore making this a great troop. I think that this could be very, very useful, but I have never taken the time to build a team around it. Starts battles with 50% mana. Very nice. Skull damage reduction by 25%. Sacred Guardian does damage to an enemy and gains armor. Spell damage reduction by 25% and immune to entangle is very nice. Solari gives all other allies 1/4 of their mana, does not include herself, then does damage to an enemy if they are undead, curse and death mark them. She summons a light storm at the start of battle and she's immune to death mark. The War Cleric gives 6 attack to all allies and damages undead and demon enemies. She's pretty much useless unless you're fighting undead and demon and or demon enemies. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, she's not very useful unless you're fighting these guys. She does have skull damage reduction by 40%. You could always just throw her up at the front of the team just as something to protect the rest of your team. That is definitely a possibility, but unless you're fighting these, the spell doesn't do much. Archon Statue. This guy. Wow, look how many I have. 476. Wow. Sorry. Deal damage to the strongest enemy. If I'm wounded, deal 8 more damage. That's very powerful in Arena. But that extra part. But double skull damage versus undead. Reduce damage from skulls by 50%. Another one that synergizes nicely on that first slot. Ethereal Sentry is amazing, but is from Hall of Guardians. The Paladin does damage to an enemy boosted by my armor with a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, the Paladin has a 2-to-1 ratio. That's half the armor. This is the exact same amount of armor. So when I cast, I'm going to get an extra 127 damage on this. That's crazy. And this is a lower rarity. The thing is, there's a 2-to-1 ratio on the High Paladin because it's hitting 2 enemies, I'm guessing. But Paladin, very, very, very powerful as long as he has some armor. He does double skull damage versus dragons, but again, I don't recommend putting him at the front of the team because you need to save his armor. Bonus yellow mana from yellow gem matches, very, very nice. Also feeds into himself. And next we have the Priestess of Light. Destroy a column, that's taking all of those gems as if they were matched. Barrier a random ally and give them armor, boosted by yellow gems destroyed. So if you only destroy 4 yellow gems, you'll only get an additional 4 armor. It's 1-to-1 ratio. Again with the Light Storm, and you can use her in Bounty. I would not myself, but maybe I might at some point. I don't know. We'll see. Sister Superior. This is another one that gets used in Guild Wars defense a lot. Cleanse all allies, dispel and stun demon and undead enemies, gain an extra turn. She is also pivotal for your Ironhawk team because she gets that extra turn immediately. So, and if you don't know what I'm talking about with Ironhawk, check out my spotlight on Ironhawk video that will explain how that team works. Yeah, because she starts battles with full mana, immediately gets an extra turn. So, next up is the Templar. This guy gives all allies armor and transforms all red gems to green to boost the effect. Does not get any mana out of it himself, but he is very nice to run with the Wild Queen. Bonus blue mana from blue gem matches and reduce damage from skulls by 25%. Then we have Penitent. Deathmark the first and last enemies and take 7 damage. He hurts them, or he curses them with Deathmark and then he hurts himself. Oh, I've been naughty. I shall flay myself. Sorry. Anyway, double skull damage versus Deathmarked enemies. So, you know, you could throw him up at the front of the team as a sacrifice, basically, and gets that extra skull damage and the death mark in there, I guess. I never used him, but lastly, we have the Priestess. She cleanses an ally and gives armor and barrier to them. It's really not bad for a common troop, seriously. The rest of this is nothing to speak about. But anyway, let's go over more things. There are so many things to go over today, folks. So next, let's look at the events. We've got Divine Knights gain 20% to their skills. You know, 10% for Knights, 10% for Divine. And then if you take Dominion into PvP, you'll get an additional 5 glory for each battle. And let's see, I know I'm going to forget something. Let's look at the Summer of Love right quick. We have a new event. You may have noticed that you got a pet in your mail today, and that came from this event. So generally speaking, when you're doing this event, you can buy all of the stock, all 5 of these, and you won't have enough to get enough of that pet to max it to level 20. You have to have that pet in your mail from the devs in order to get it to level 20. This is the first time that they have sent it out on the first day, and that is for the people that want to spend the real money to get all of this done in one day. You know, there are people out there that are going to want this immediately. I'm going to go over Forenza in a minute. She's really powerful. But let's look at the summer armor first. So this is what we have for the new armor for the males and the females. I like it. Yes, yes, it is pretty. It's cosmetic, of course, but I must have it. Forenza's flower. Okay, Forenza. Let's go over her. So Forenza does damage to all enemies boosted by Fairy Fire Gems. We have a new gem, the Fairy Fire Gem. Then she summons an annoying Summer Knight. The Summer Knights are annoying because they cast barrier on themselves when they do their spells. So anyway, she creates Fairy Fire Gems, and Fairy Fire, as you know, is going to make the spells do an extra 50% damage. So if you're using a spell-based team, now I'm hoping the Fairy Fire Gems are only going to affect one enemy and not be like the fire gems that do the entire team. Hopefully it will only hit one enemy, in which case not as powerful, but still. She does do damage to all enemies and an additional 3 damage for each Fairy Fire Gem on the board. I haven't seen the Fairy Fire Gems yet, so I can't give you any more information on that, but as far as teams go, I haven't gone over this yet. I do know that Guard's Avatar can be used in here. We'll just take a quick peek at what we've got here. So, yeah. Dracula's... Oh, no, wait. Yeah, Guard's Avatar is here. Yeah, Georgia told me it was. So, you know, we've got some great AoE options for the mythics. As far as the legendaries go... Gosh... Crimson Bat. Crimson Bat is nice to run with Draculus, by the way, if you have him. Garuda does damage to all enemies. I like my AoE teams, folks. I like Indrajit. Indrajit could work as well. It does for random enemies. And let's see, King Oberon, 50% mana start for Fey allies and life to your team. King Silanus does splash damage. Magma Dragon, Medea. Nice. Nyarmel does splash damage. Obragonia does damage to all enemies. Queen Titania, yeah. So, you know, there are lots of options in here. Let's look at quickly here some of these other things that skull damage options. Yeah, skull spammer options. Just looking to see anything here that does damage to more than one. Centauragon. Centauragon. I love Centauragon. Something that does... Dimtraxia does do damage to all enemies, but it's not very much. However, Dominion does damage. Oh, it's one enemy. That's right. It's one enemy. Just looking for people with those lower stat or lower rarity cards here. Right quick. Oh, Gargoyle's fantastic. If you don't have Gargoyle, Gargoyle is amazing. Just use him with Ethereal Sentry and you're good. Harpy Mage is great, but she is from a faction as well. I should probably stop. I will... Oh, Merilith, yay. Okay, so I will make teams when I get a chance. I have to try to get some sleep, but I'm not done yet. There's more stuff. I still feel like I'm forgetting to tell you about something, but let's get in here and go over this. Tomorrow we have the Hall of Guardians Faction Assault. I was just talking about those trips. I have to cough. Hold on. Alright, Faction Assault. Hall of Guardians. We've got the Peace Pigeon Pet Rescue on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have the Priest Class Trial. On Friday, I did mention this last week, although you may have missed it. We're going back to Sunken Fleet for the weekend. So we have a new troop that is coming out for Sunken Fleet. It is a mana generator. It looks like it could be very useful for the faction. I'll have to check it out. We'll see. But again, I still think I'm forgetting to mention something. I'm very sorry about whatever I'm forgetting. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you may be. Check out the videos that are on the screen right now. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you may be, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye!